Watch this space. When they tell us to keep quiet, you know we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Wait for it.
That was Joy Behar on The View in April. And yeah, we had to wait 5 months for that to happen. Because after ABC pulled Jimmy Kimmel Live from their schedule indefinitely on Wednesday, after Kimmel relayed what Trump and Vance had said over the weekend, The View stayed quiet and did not make it a hot topic on either the Thursday or Friday show.
Let's tell you what's been going on. FBI Director Kash Patel.
And a lot of people noticed. Yeah, it's made headlines, and Bill Maher called them out on Friday night.
They didn't say anything about this week. Nothing. You know, because it's never been their thing to weigh in on the issues.
It did surprise me that they did not discuss it on air. Now, on a day-to-day basis, the ladies are the ones that ultimately choose what topics they're going to discuss on air.
So the Hot Topics team puts together a packet of stories from politics to pop culture and everything in between. And the co-hosts read through it at night, email us well into the night in the early morning of stories they're interested in talking about after reading through. And then in the morning, we have our Hot Topics meeting, and it all goes out the window.
Yeah, so they choose the topics, and the producers want to do the topics that the ladies are interested in, that they're engaged in, that they have going to have a strong opinion on. So it's going to make some lively television. And yeah, they passionately discussed CBS announcing that Colbert would be ending in May.
When they start coming for the comedians, all bets are off. Because the king he's supposed to take the hits. And this guy has the skin thinner than this card.
So lack of interest was not the reason that Kimmel's suspension did not make the cut. So, I mean, thinking this through, obviously, there was worry about what they would say when it was a hot topic. And inevitably, the conversation would have been criticizing their bosses, their ABC bosses, and criticizing the Trump administration for strong-arming networks in taking these shows off the air that are critics of Trump. And of course, The View is one of the most high-profile and, loudest critics of Trump.
I would have preferred, instead of buying a Tesla, he would have bought a rocket from Elon. And
Don't do it.
So to be fair, and to consider all possibilities, it is possible the ladies decided themselves to nix the topic. Because, I mean, it can be an uncomfortable thing to, criticize your bosses on national television. But, I mean, they haven't shied away from that in the past. I mean, Whoopi took the network to task for casting convicted felon Anna Delvey on last season's Dancing with the Stars.
We got to support the network. I get all of that. But this is a in the face of a lot of people.
See, I don't think it was the ladies that shied away from it. And really, I'm going to talk about Whoopi and Joy here because they're the, commanding voices. They would be ultimately making the decision in terms of the co-hosts. And I don't think Whoopi and Joy would shy away from it to protect themselves or over fear of their own job. I think they would feel an obligation, and it was necessary to talk about Kimmel's suspension. And I don't think they would care about, risking their own job to do it. I think what would cause them to stay silent is that the threat wouldn't be against them losing their jobs. It would be the entire show losing their jobs. The entire staff would lose their jobs. And that wouldn't be ABC. I mean, if, somehow they went on air and criticized the ABC bosses too much, and the ABC bosses were mad, they would go after the host that said it. They wouldn't, take the whole show off the air. But the threat from the Trump administration is the whole show. Like, they would take the whole show out. It'd be all those people potentially losing their jobs. So that's the only logical explanation I come up with that why they didn't do it is because, they're putting everyone's job at risk. And I mean, that's a lot to take on to, I want to speak out and I'm going to put all these people, whatever it is, hundreds of people's jobs at risk because I want to speak out. And of course, their comments on their YouTube are just full of people saying, why don't you talk about Jimmy Kimmel and boycotting until you talk about Jimmy Kimmel. And the threat from the Trump administration got a little more serious, I guess, on Thursday afternoon when the FCC chair, Brendan Carr, went on another podcast. And oddly, the host, Scott Jennings, asked him about The View.
A lot of people think there are other shows on ABC that maybe run afoul of this more often than Jimmy Kimmel. I'm thinking specifically of The View. Are they doing what Kimmel did Monday night, and is it even worse on those programs, in your opinion?
This was supposed to be about Kimmel recapping what Trump and Vance said over the weekend, not about criticizing Trump, right? Right, guys? Keep your story straight here. So how could The View be saying something worse about Charlie Kirk's killer than what Kimmel did. Like, their messaging is getting very muddled here. They're not keeping track of the story. But yeah, in his answer, Brendan Carr's going to take this in a completely different direction.
The FCC does have a rule called the equal opportunity rule, which means, for instance, if you're in the run-up to an election, you have one partisan elected official on, you have to give equal time, equal opportunity to the opposing partisan politician. So far, so good. But there's an exception to that rule called the bona fide news exception, which means if you are a bona fide news program, you don't have to abide by the equal opportunity rule. You can make the argument that The View is a bona fide news show, but I'm not so sure about that. And I think it's worthwhile to have the FCC look into whether The View and some of these other programs that you have still qualify as bona fide news programs and therefore exempt from the equal opportunity regime that Congress has put in place.
Well, I don't know what you need to look into in order to decide the classification of The View as a show. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the show, Brendan. So it's a talk show. They talk about the, headlines of the day, mostly politics, and sometimes they have celebrities on that are plugging their latest project, or they have politicians on, and they sometimes have a View or Deal segment. I mean, yeah, what is there to look into? It's pretty easy. If you want to change the classification of the show, sure, but I mean, that's pretty easy to do. I don't know what looking into you need to do. Yeah, so if Brendan Carr decides that The View is no longer a bona fide news program, then that would mean that in the next general election in 2028, The View would have to make sure they invited both the Democrat and Republican candidate to be on the show. And I'm pretty sure they already do that. And yeah, in an interview with Decider in April 2024, The View executive producer Brian Tedder revealed that they did invite Trump to be on in 2016 and 2020, and he declined their invitation, and they figured they might as well stop asking. They've fulfilled the equal time rule. If they've invited the person to come on and they decide not to. So looking into that Brendan threatened to do with The View wouldn't really be about the ladies criticizing Trump, but Kimmel criticizing Trump wasn't the reason he got pulled off the air either, was it? No. Nor was it for Colbert, right? Yeah, so I think it was a little bit of a "we're watching you" warning to The View.
We're in a lot of trouble in this country right now.
And yeah, in terms of those Thursday, Friday shows, they managed to cover political headlines that weren't really Trump-related. And so this is really the only Trump critique across the two shows.
Trump famously said he likes the poorly educated. He also seems to like the unqualified and the uninformed.
But what will they do Monday or Tuesday? Like, even if they're not discussing Kimmel, there's going to be some Trump headlines that they're going to have to discuss, and they're going to have to critique him. So, I mean, I think the reality is, The View just has to do what they do. Just keep doing what you're doing.
We're one of the few places that can still do what we do.
Well, for how long?
If they're going to try to take you off air, they're going to get you off air. They can do it exactly the same way they did it with Kimmel. So, I mean, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Who it's going to come down to is for Bob Iger to grow a pair and to stand up with Donald Trump. And, yeah, say, no, we're not taking them off the air.
That if you play it safe, if somehow or another you try to protect the status quo, you don't get anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I guess I was also fortunate I wasn't born with much of a fear gene.
What are your thoughts?
This is why you should always keep coming back to The View, because you never know what's going to happen.